So you were talking earlier about roughly 80 employees are here now, I believe, from your company. And so I'll mention this to you, Josh, because you talked about your son's company relocating to Austin. You know, last year the DFW area led Texas with new residents with 63,000 compared to Austin's 48,000. You can tell your son's company that. I hope if it's not too late. But the question I had really about that was workforce readiness, right? That's a key area, a key issue that you hear in a lot of actually big metropolitan areas where you wouldn't think that would be an issue. Talk to us a little bit about that workforce readiness. What did we have here for your company, Josh, first, and then yours, Sandy, that really helped you feel like not only can my company move here, but we can thrive and grow because of that?
You know, the first day I moved here, which is October 1st, we had started our office on June 1st, and we didn't force anybody to move.
Okay.
We took an office that would accommodate 60 people. We had about, as I said, about 180 in LA and then in these other offices. And we thought we'd get 20 or 30 people, but you can't do this without leadership. Like if the leadership doesn't move, people won't go. Mm-hmm. And so, so I, among others in the top at our company, decided to make a commitment to move. And I spent the first day just talking to everyone in the office. Almost everyone at every level had bought a house, from a $300,000 house to much, much more expensive homes. They moved their kids into schools and didn't have tremendous difficulty finding quality education, whether it was public education in certain parts of the market or private education, and they had alternatives. One of my employees said, you know, I feel like I have a 10-year head start on my retirement.
Oh, wow.
Because the cost of living is so much lower. And his after-tax savings are much, much higher. So, so the women and men have been tremendous. It's not an easy labor market. As you point out, unemployment is very low, so people have alternatives. But that's true generally. But try looking at what someone's standard of living is like in LA, who's an entry-level employee, and it's quite difficult, or in New York. You know, lots of young people want to be there when they get out of school. It's a lot of fun. It's a real locus of activity. But by the time you grow up and you have a couple of kids and you've got a husband and you're both working and you're trying to make ends meet and you're trying to save for your own retirement and also provide a nice standard of living and a nice culture, Texas is just Dallas is a sensible market for that. So it's not about what we're doing at the top of our workforce. It's really what we're doing in the middle of it, which is where most of our employees reside. And that's most of our employees. You know, sure, there's always a few people at the top who are the executives who would love to pay less in taxes. But the vast majority of our employees, it was really about an entire change in their lifestyle and for their families. And it made a very big impact, and it is making it immediately.
Wow. How many employees do you have here, Josh? We didn't talk about
We have about 60 so far. We pretty much had to stop it because we ran out of office space.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Maria Stamolis, who's one of our co-heads of real estate, is here today, and she did an extraordinary job at getting us fitted out in a good office that worked for us like immediately, which I was amazed that we could pull off. But we're already looking to expand it next year because it wouldn't surprise me if we had another 40 here next year. And it is, I think it is easier to hire here. Mm-hmm. It's still difficult every place right now, mm-hmm. but I think we see more qualified candidates here right now than we're seeing there. But those things ebb and flow. I think with the headquarters here, it also makes that a little bit, self-effectuating.
Sandy? Mm-hmm.
Well, I think about our workforce in a couple of different buckets. From a pure corporate perspective, we've got about a total of 300 employees. And when you think about workforce readiness, the depth in this market is really, really attractive. In partnerships with UNT, for example, we have a very strong partnership with them. We have an emerging partnership with Texas Workforce Solutions. So those types of relationships are really helping us identify and tap and attract that talent. But I also think about our championships. In the next 12 years, we'll host 26 championships on the PJ Frisco campus. And for each of those championships, our vendors, the companies that help us build the city, if you will, for a championship, could be food and beverage, could be transportation logistics, could be decor, hospitality, floral, anything you would think you might see at a championship. All of those vendors need to source subcontractors and workers from the local community. They don't come into the market with those individuals. So there's a very comprehensive temporary workforce that we need to power those championships. And this is a great place to be able to tap into to help our vendors fill those thousands of shifts leading into the championship, during championship week, and also post-championship for the breakdown. Then there's also a very in-depth volunteer workforce that we need to power those championships. For our major spectator championships, depending on which one, we'll need anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 volunteers. So incredible opportunity, we think, in this market to fill opportunities across those three buckets.
Robert, when your organization is talking to companies, and based on all the things we've talked about today, I think you might have one of the easiest jobs in that. There are a lot of pros here to getting a company to come. But what themes do you hear consistently as maybe top challenges that they might face in relocating to our area, into Texas? And how do you work with them and point them in the direction of saying, hey, I can check that off. That's not an issue now, as I thought previously.
Sure. Well, and first, if you can't tell, I mean, I have like a permanent grin on my face. I was one of the ones that immediately came up to Sandy and was like, thank you. I donate a lot of golf balls, and I'm so glad you're here. But I mean, these testimonials, you know, I mean, you can't, frankly, you can't buy this kind of testimonial because this is what they've experienced. But you talk about challenges, and look, growth is not without challenges. And, you know, I think one of the number one challenges that we hear is talent, right? Access to talent. And, you know, I'd tell you 5 years ago in this business, it was, tell me about the incentives. Tell me about, you know, how you can help us, you know, reduce the cost. Now it's all about talent. And we're actually seeing companies, very, very large companies and small companies for that matter, that are foregoing financial incentives just because they want to be in Texas so bad. And so they're willing to, you know, leave that on the sideline because of the other benefits. Josh did a great job of articulating, you know, what that talent is experiencing. You know, whether it's education and housing, and you know the ability to get plugged in instantly. But no, the country is seeing challenges in talent. We are not immune to that either. But the good news with that, as I remind people, is we're one of the fastest growing states in the country. You are in one of the fastest growing MSAs in the country. You are seated, you know, what, number 9, number 12, I think, the size of cities that are separated by 30 some odd miles, with one of the best, if not the best, in my humble opinion, international airports right in the middle. Sandy talked about this, and I can't tell you how many times we hear in conversations with decision makers, hey, tell me about your airport. Show me how many flights directs you have to Asia. Show me how many directs you have to Europe. And we're just like, yeah, great. Let me show you. You know, another challenge, you know, is the housing front. Right? Now I'm in Austin, so you know I know what a challenging housing market's like. By the way, if anybody wants to buy my house, I'll happily sell it to you, but I have no place to go. You know, but that's again, that's a challenge that arises out of rapid growth. Now, again, great news here is you've got unbelievable amounts of what I'll call other markets that are plugged into the Metroplex, but don't have to be plugged into the Metroplex. Frisco's at the top of the list. Irving, McKinney, you know, you can just go on and on and on. Arlington is really coming on strong lately. So these are cities in and of themselves that you might, if you're lucky in other major urban environments, get 1 or 2 of those. You know, here you have multiple options. They're building rapidly. And so again, I think that's a temporary challenge. I think that challenge, you know, will ultimately go by the wayside. And then finally, I think there's a long-term question about the impact of the pandemic, right? In terms of office environments, flexible work environments, what does that mean? I look at that as an opportunity, not a challenge, because I know in Texas, as I said at the very beginning of the conversation, the attitude here is let's roll up our sleeves and get it done, solve the problem. We're going to be faced with challenges again. That, you know, challenges are not anything new to Texans. We deal with them all the time. We face them head on. And so I think, again, the response to the pandemic is a good indication of what you're going to get long term. I'm sure in this room there's lots of concerns about office space and what that's going to really look like. The reality is, you know, Texans, and especially those, although I do like all my children equally, but North Texas is one of the leaders. So I'll tell you that. You know, you get up every day and you want to make a difference. And you get that mentality here. So again, I don't necessarily categorize it as a challenge. I see it as an opportunity because I don't think you get that in some other areas of the country that will remain nameless.